God. I want to ask you if what you're currently living in is going to become your mission field. I was living in partying. I was living in sin. I was living in ways that were so foreign to the way that God had for me because I had a fear of man. I wanted to be seen. I wanted to be known by people. That was my one calling, or so I thought. And so I'm going to these parties and I'm partaking in these things, and I go to this coffee shop. And I grew up in a Christian household, but I was exactly what you would define a lukewarm Christian as because I didn't know Jesus. I knew his name. I had no idea what he'd done for me. I go to this coffee shop, and here I'm sitting with all of my friends, and we're drowning in sin. And this man gets up. He walks in, he stands on a table, and he starts preaching the gospel. And what are we doing? We're making fun of him. We're standing over here, we're saying, look at this man, look at this fool. He believes in this man that's up in the sky that saved us. He can't save us. He can't save me. And so I'm standing there making fun of him. He walks over and he says, do you know Jesus? And us going along with our laughter, we go, absolutely, hallelujah, amen. Do you know if you're saved? Not a single one of us put up our hand. We'd heard of who Jesus was. We had no idea what he'd done. We didn't realize the weight of that. There's a verse in Mark 10, and it talks about how on earth is someone saved? And Jesus is telling the disciples, through human ways, it's impossible. It's impossible for you to save yourself. If you walked in here and you're claiming yourself self-righteous and you're saying, I could do this, God. I don't really need you. I need you on a Sunday. I need you when I'm breaking, but I don't need you in the good times. I'll be fine. I tried that over and over and over and over. But Jesus says, with human ways, it's impossible, but with me, it's possible. I should have been an impossibility. There is no way that because of a man in a coffee shop that I was making fun of, I should be standing here right now proclaiming the gospel. I'm so unworthy. I'm absolutely nothing. But in God's eyes, I'm a daughter. I'm redeemed. I'm restored. I just got healed. You think I could do that on my own? It's incurable. There's no way. And so I'm asking you to impartake on the story of Jesus, to let him in your heart tonight, to not just give him 1%, but that you would give him everything. That it would no longer be something that you preach on a Sunday, but that you live through a Monday. That you would start walking with Jesus, that you wouldn't just be talking about him, that you wouldn't be living in sin. I tried that while still talking about him. It doesn't work. You're just living in flesh, but proclaiming a name that you don't know. And I want to ask you, as you're proclaiming his name, are you living it? Are you willing to sacrifice to be with him, to know who he is? Because there are thousands of yeses. There are generations after your yes that are going to come to know Jesus because you stopped living for yourself. You realized that you couldn't satisfy what you needed through human ways. It's impossible. The Bible's told us this, but I'm asking you to believe it today, to not just read about it, but to know it, to seek it. Because I was still thinking I knew God when I was going to parties. And I had this girl tell me one time, she was blackout drunk. She sits up and she says, one day you'll find your people. One day you'll find your people. These are the people of Jesus. We are here to proclaim his name, not our own. I don't care if you know who I am, but I do care that you know after you leave today what Jesus did for you. The sacrifice he made. You might know his name, but are you living for him? Are you living like you do? Please don't underestimate the power of the gospel in your life, and what you doing will impact generations to come. Follow in obedience. Let the Lord lead you. Let the Lord guide you. Seek him with all your heart, and I promise you he's gonna provide in ways that you never understood. But it's gonna be hard. It doesn't come without a price, because he paid the ultimate price to love you. And I hope that sinks today for the first time for some of you. Because it wasn't until I got a phone call from a friend, and she comes over to me and she says, Cia, you gotta stop partying. If you know Jesus, why aren't you living for him? Because he's never gonna be able to move when you're constantly living in sin. So I get off the phone and I was like, oh, you're right. That's the last party I ever went to. And because of that, I've had people that I used to party with watch what I do on social media with the gospel and say, man, I don't understand. I don't know who this man is, but I do see him through you. Can you tell me about him? And I'm gonna introduce my friend. And man, his story is incredible too. But don't forget who Jesus is tonight.